In my 1996 book, Trust, the Social Virtues and the Creation of Prosperity, I characterize the United States as a high-trust society. This view has a long pedigree. Alexis de Tocqueville spoke about the American art of association in his book Democracy in America and characterized Americans as particularly adept at forming voluntary organizations. Data from surveys like the General Social Survey and the World Values Survey used to show that Americans had higher levels of generalized social trust than people in many other countries. These high levels of trust were questioned in the mid-1990s by political scientist Robert Putnam in an article and later a book entitled Bowling Alone, in which he noted that trust levels and Americans' willingness to join organizations had been in steady decline in the late 20th century. Bowling Alone spawned an intense debate. Some observers noted that there could be high levels of trust within small groups, but low trust between groups. What was desirable ideally was a society with high levels of bridging in addition to bonding social capital. This debate occurred just as the internet was privatized and made available to mass audiences, and it became hard to argue in the early 21st century that Americans were less prone to join groups than in earlier decades, but they were simply online groups. Particularly after the rise of social media in the early 2010s, it was clear that tightly bonded online groups were often turning into vehicles for hatred of other groups as the country became steadily more polarized. While generalized social trust had been deteriorating, Donald Trump and his MAGA movement pushed distrust to truly pathological levels. This was particularly true of trust in government, which Trump and his allies branded as a malevolent deep state, a government manipulated by hidden elites to take advantage of ordinary people. Distrust of the state has always been a core element of American political culture. But now Americans were told by right-wing conspiracy theorists that their government was actively working against them, falsifying election outcomes, lying about statistics, engaged in politicized prosecutions, and manipulating the public health system. Trust between groups also disappeared in this toxic stew. In this year's election campaign, Republicans routinely assert that the very existence of the country hinges on the contest's outcome, that Democrats hate America and are doing everything they can to undermine it. The damage that has already been done to public trust has been on full display during the recent hurricanes, Helene and Milton. From the moment the storms hit, Trump and other right-wing conspiracy mongers were falsely asserting that FEMA had diverted the hurricane relief money to support illegal immigrants. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene asserted that the government could control the weather and direct hurricanes to hit Republican counties. There's been a lot of speculation about how bad a second term for Donald Trump would be, but even if Kamala Harris wins the coming election, this deranged individual has already done lasting damage. America has shifted in a couple of generations from a high-trust to a low-trust country, an erosion of social capital that will have lasting effects on both the economy and on the political system. Thanks for listening. American Purpose is now part of Persuasion, and you can see the original blog post on which this video is based if you go to that website.